Listen to me, and listen to me very carefully, because what just happened inside Barclays Center on April 25th was not a preseason game. It was not a warm-up. It was not a tune-up. It was a complete, total, devastating statement of intent from the Indiana Fever. And if you missed it, if you blinked, if you were too busy listening to casual analysts tell you the Liberty were the team to fear in the East, then you missed the moment. The entire balance of power in the WNBA shifted in real time. Welcome back to the channel, where we don't just tell you what happened, we tell you why it happened, what it means, and where it's going next. This is not surface-level commentary. This is not recycled hot takes. This is the breakdown the casuals will never give you, because the casuals do not see the geometry of this game the way we see it. And today, we are diving into something special. We are dissecting the rookie debut that just rewrote the blueprint of Caitlin Clark's championship window. We are examining the new weapon Stephanie White just unleashed on the league. We are looking at the 109-91 demolition of the New York Liberty. And we are explaining with surgical precision why this single preseason game has terrifying implications for every single contender in this league. Stay locked in. Let me set the scene for you. April 25th, 2026, Brooklyn, New York. The Fever walk into the home of the New York Liberty, into Barclays Center, into hostile territory, and they walk out with a 109-91 victory that was not even as close as the score suggests. And the headline, the absolute headline that every casual outlet got wrong, that every mainstream pundit underplayed, was the debut of rookie point guard Raven Johnson. 6 points, 8 assists, 0 turnovers, 3 rebounds, 3 combined steals and blocks, 3 for 3 from the field in 17 minutes of playing time. Read that line again. Read it slowly. 8 assists, 0 turnovers, 3 for 3 shooting, 17 minutes. That is not a debut. That is not a rookie finding her feet. That is a fully formed, weaponized, surgical floor general operating at a level that should not be physically possible for a player making her first professional appearance. And yet, here we are, watching it happen on national television, watching the casuals scratch their heads, watching the Fever quietly install a piece that may have just solved the single biggest problem on their roster. Understand this, and understand it deeply. The Indiana Fever, as constructed last season, had a problem, a massive, glaring, championship-altering problem. And that problem was not Caitlin Clark. It was never Caitlin Clark. Clark is one of the most gravitational offensive forces in the history of women's basketball. She bends defenses, she warps spacing, she creates gravity that frees up Aaliyah Boston in the post and Kelsey Mitchell on the wing and every single shooter on that roster. But Clark, brilliant as she is, has one statistical reality that the casuals refuse to acknowledge, and that reality is turnovers. Her pace, her ambition, her willingness to thread passes that 95% of the league cannot even see comes with a cost. And when Clark sat down last season, when she was on the bench, when she was injured, the offense did not just slow down. It stopped. It collapsed. There was no secondary engine. There was no backup floor general. There was no insurance policy. The Fever were a 5-minute overtime period away from the WNBA Finals, and the single largest reason they did not get there was the absence of a competent backup point guard who could stabilize the offense when Clark was off the floor. That was the gap. That was the wound. That was the missing piece of the championship puzzle. And when Indiana selected Raven Johnson with the 10th overall pick of the 2026 WNBA draft, the front office did not just draft a rookie. They surgically inserted the exact missing piece into the exact missing slot, and on April 25th in Brooklyn, that piece detonated. Let me explain to you in detail why Raven Johnson is not just a good rookie pickup, why she is, in fact, the perfect rookie pickup for this specific roster, in this specific moment, with this specific star at the helm. Caitlin Clark, as we just established, is a generational creator. But she is also, by her own coach's admission, a player whose game thrives on flow, on rhythm, on freedom of movement. Stephanie White and Clark herself have both publicly stated that the priority this season is to preserve Clark's energy by allowing her to operate off the ball more frequently. Off the ball. Let those words sit. The most ball-dominant guard in the league, the player who has handled the rock for 40 minutes a night her entire career, is being asked to share the load, to play without the ball, to conserve, to be efficient. And to do that, you need a partner. You need a co-pilot. You need a player who can run the offense for stretches without bleeding turnovers, without hunting her own shot, without disrupting the chemistry. You need a traditional, classical, low-error floor general. And that is the exact, specific, mathematically precise description of Raven Johnson's game. She is the anti-turnover. She is the steady hand. She is the player who, in her senior season at South Carolina, averaged over 5 assists per game in Dawn Staley's system, while almost never coughing up the ball. She is, by reputation, by college tape, by every advanced metric you can throw at her, one of the most reliable decision-makers to enter the WNBA in years. And Indiana just got her with the 10th pick. The 10th pick, ladies and gentlemen, that is grand larceny. That is a heist. That is the front office stealing the Mona Lisa in broad daylight while the rest of the league watches and does nothing. Now let me show you what happened on the floor, because the box score, as impressive as it is, only tells part of the story. The real story is in the film. The real story is in the way Johnson played. From the moment she checked into the game with 5 minutes and 15 seconds left in the first quarter, she did not look like a rookie. She looked like a 5-year veteran. Her pace was controlled. Her reads were instant. She was setting up plays, not improvising them. She was directing teammates, not following them. There is one specific play, one specific possession, where she sets the offense, defended by Liberty guard Nichera Pryor, and you can see her surveying the floor with the calm of a chess grandmaster. She does not panic. She does not rush. She makes the right read every single time. 8 assists in 17 minutes. That is 1 assist every 2 minutes and 7 seconds of game time. That is an elite rate. That is a rate that, if extrapolated over a full 30-minute starter's workload, would put her in the conversation for league-leading assist totals as a rookie, as a backup, off the bench. And the most terrifying part, the part that should keep every other contender awake at night, is that this was her first professional game. This was her floor. This was her starting point. From here, she only gets better. From here, she only gets more comfortable. From here, the chemistry with Clark, with Mitchell, with Boston, with the entire Indiana system only deepens. And let us not forget, because the casuals will absolutely forget, the defensive dimension. Because Raven Johnson did not just come into the league as a playmaker. She came into the league with the reputation, earned at South Carolina under Dawn Staley, of being one of the most disruptive perimeter defenders in college basketball. 3 combined steals and blocks in 17 minutes. 3 in 17 minutes. That is the kind of defensive impact that bends games. That is the kind of energy that flips possessions, that creates transition opportunities, that generates the easy buckets that win playoff series. And pair that defensive intensity with Caitlin Clark on the floor, with Sophie Cunningham on the wing, with Aaliyah Boston anchoring the paint, and you are looking at a defensive identity that did not exist on this roster 6 months ago. The Fever were not a defensive team last year. They were not feared on that end. They scored their way to victories. But add Raven Johnson to that backcourt rotation, add Tyasha Harris as another defensive pest, add the length and switchability that this roster now possesses, and suddenly, Indiana is not just an offensive juggernaut. They are a two-way machine. They are a team that can win ugly. They are a team that can grind out games when the shots are not falling. And that right there is the difference between a regular season contender and a champion. That is the dimension that wins playoff series. That is the missing element that Stephanie White just installed without anyone in the mainstream media noticing. And while we are talking about Caitlin Clark, let us address her performance directly, because the casuals will look at the box score and say, Clark struggled. 2 for 10 from the floor, limited minutes. Surface level analysis will tell you Clark had a quiet night. But that is not what happened. That is not what the film shows. Clark made her first 2 attempts of the game, a floater and a step-back 3, and then the Liberty did exactly what every team in this league is going to do to her this season. They picked her up full court. They threw double pressure at her. They denied her catches. They tried to take the ball out of her hands before she could even initiate the offense. And what did Clark do? She had 0 turnovers. 0. Against full court pressure, against the defensive scheme specifically designed to break her, she did not cough up the ball a single time. Her burst, her acceleration, her physical condition coming off injury, all of it looked sharp. Stephanie White herself praised Clark's intentionality, her communication, her flow within the system. The shots will come. The shots always come. But the foundation, the physical readiness, the decision-making under pressure, that is already there. And combined with the chemistry she is already showing with new free agent signing Monique Billings on screen and role action, you are looking at a Caitlin Clark who is more efficient, more sustainable, more terrifying than the version we saw last year. And speaking of Monique Billings, this is another piece that the mainstream is sleeping on. 9 points and 7 rebounds in 21 minutes in her first game in an Indiana uniform. Her ability to play screen and roll action with Clark created multiple high-quality looks for both of them in the first half. This is the kind of front-court partner that unlocks Clark's pick-and-roll game on a level we have not seen before. Add to that the offensive output from Kelsey Mitchell, who dropped 18 points and made scoring look effortless, and from Sophie Cunningham, who knocked down 3 of 6 from deep for 13 points, and from Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, who also chipped in 18 points, and you start to see the picture forming. This is not a one-star team. This is not a team carried by Caitlin Clark alone. This is a deep, multi-layered, multi-headed offensive monster, with shooters everywhere, with scorers at every position, with a backup point guard who does not bleed turnovers, with a front court that can rebound and screen and finish. This is the deepest, most balanced, most complete roster Indiana has ever assembled around Caitlin Clark, and they just announced themselves to the league in the loudest possible way. Now let us talk about what this means for the rest of the WNBA, because the implications are absolutely massive. The defending champion Las Vegas Aces, the team that knocked Indiana out in the semifinals last year in overtime, has to be watching this tape right now and feeling extremely uncomfortable. The Minnesota Lynx, the team with the best title odds in the league, has to be recalibrating their entire approach to the Eastern Conference. The New York Liberty, the team that just got dismantled by 18 points in their own building in a game where their best players got plenty of run, has to be having uncomfortable internal conversations about whether they are still the class of the East. Because they are not. They are not the class of the East anymore. The class of the East is wearing red and gold, and they just put the entire league on notice. Indiana is no longer the plucky underdog. Indiana is no longer the team riding Caitlin Clark to overachievement. Indiana is a fully constructed, deeply talented, defensively capable, offensively explosive championship contender. And the rest of the league is going to spend the entire summer trying to figure out how to deal with them. And the answer, for many of them, is going to be that they cannot. Because how do you defend a Caitlin Clark who has Raven Johnson taking pressure off her? How do you defend a Kelsey Mitchell when Clark is drawing 2 defenders? How do you defend an Aaliyah Boston when Monique Billings is setting elite screens? How do you defend Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull, Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, all of them spotting up around the perimeter? You do not. You cannot. The math does not work. And there is one more layer to this story, one more piece of context that elevates Raven Johnson's debut from impressive to genuinely poetic. Because the relationship between Raven Johnson and Caitlin Clark has a history. It has a backstory. In the 2023 NCAA Final Four, Clark famously waved Johnson off when she was supposed to be guarding her, opting to double another South Carolina player instead. That moment went viral. That moment became a cultural flashpoint. Johnson herself has spoken about the online mockery she faced after that clip spread. And now, 3 years later, the two of them are on the same team. They are teammates. They are partners. They are co-pilots in what may become the most dominant backcourt construction this league has seen in years. Johnson, in her recent media availability, spoke about how she has been leaning on Clark, on Boston, on Tyasha Harris, on Sophie Cunningham, on Kelsey Mitchell, asking question after question, soaking up information, integrating into the system. The maturity, the humility, the curiosity, all of it is on display. And Clark, for her part, has welcomed her former rival with open arms. The narrative arc is just incredible. From rivals to teammates, from a viral moment of disrespect to a championship partnership. The basketball gods write better scripts than any of us could imagine. Let me also pause and give credit to head coach Stephanie White, because what she is building in Indiana deserves recognition. The decision to play Clark off the ball more, the willingness to integrate 3 rookies into the rotation, the system that allows multiple players to handle and create, the defensive intensity she is demanding, all of this is the work of a coach who understands modern basketball at the highest level. White is not coaching last year's team. She is not running back the same playbook. She is evolving, adapting, optimizing. She saw what worked last season, she saw what failed, and she is surgically addressing every single weakness. The Fever are no longer reactive. They are proactive. They are building something with intent, with vision. with purpose. And that, more than any single player, more than any single signing, more than any single draft pick, is what makes this team genuinely dangerous. Because championships are not won by talent alone. Championships are won by talent plus system, plus chemistry, plus coaching. And Indiana is firing on all 4 cylinders right now in a way that they have never fired before. Now I want to hear from you. I want to know what you saw. I want to know what you thought of Raven Johnson's debut. Was she the most impressive rookie of the entire preseason slate? Is she already the best backup point guard in the league? Where do you rank Indiana right now in your championship tier list? Are they the team to beat in the East? Are they ahead of New York? Are they catching up to the Aces and the Lynx? Drop your takes in the comments below because I read every single one of them, and the conversations we have in this community are some of the smartest, most informed, most passionate